This is Brett E. with a series we like to call Positive Acting Advice with the most positive actor in Georgia. So this episode is called Getting Started, and I thought that it was really important to make this because in any given week I'm asked at least 4 or 5 times for advice on how to get started from newer actors, or a friend of mine might know someone that is interested in getting started in acting, and so I always get asked a question like, how do they get started, or how do I get started? So, success principle number 1. Only take advice from those that are where you want to go or in the process of going where you want to go in any area of knowledge that you want to get better in. That is the basis of any success principle that I could teach you or that you could take away from me. I would say make sure that you are taking counsel from those that are better than you or are in the process going where you want to go. Okay? So for those of you who are new to me on YouTube, around the world and whatnot, that are interested in acting and just wondering what's this guy all about, take a second and just type the most positive actor in Georgia into any search engine and just see what comes up, and I'll see you in just a second. Alright, so you guys might have seen me on The Haves and the Have-Nots by Tyler Perry, or the Angie's List commercial. If you have seen a commercial for a company called Angie's List, that is me. So next time you see that commercial, wave to the TV, and I'll be waving back from my TV, because now we're friends. Also, I've been on some Fatal Attraction, Homicide Hunter, and a handful of different other shows. But so that's just a little quick background about me. So, this one is how to get started. So, let's start with how I got started. Because people always ask me, Brett, how did you get started in all of this? So my story is amazing and crazy. And it all started about 5 or 6 years ago. I have a really, really good personal friend of mine named Alex Brown, Alexander L. Brown. And he's another entrepreneurial-minded individual, good friend of mine from college, and we've known each other for years. And once a month or so, we would always get together, have breakfast or dinner or something like that, and just talk about entrepreneurial plans, right? Just like what's been going well since the past month, what we're looking to change, and just keep everything flowing in the right direction. And one time we met, and I just was like, I feel like acting is pulling me towards it for some reason. And, when I'm seeing people on TV, I'm just like, these are just regular folks, these are people that we all probably went to elementary school and middle school, and, we got parents, we got, issues and homework and all that kind of stuff, and so why not me, right? And he was like, dude, I was going to tell you that that's something you should look into. And so that was the first part that kind of floored me. And so then I had no idea how to get started. I had no idea what to do because there's so many scams out there, and I just had no clue, right? So now I'm not the most religious person on the planet, but Alex comes from that line of training, and his dad's a pastor, and he's a pastor now. And so he said, all right, man, let's just pray about it. And I'll start looking online. I'll start looking on like Facebook and see if maybe I've got a friend in common that might be able to help get us started in the right area, because like, you need to do this, man. Like, when I see you get around people and around groups of people and stuff like that, it's just a light kicks on, and you're just great around that kind of atmosphere. So I was like, okay, we'll try anything, right? We prayed about it. 2 days later, a totally different friend that I hadn't talked to in about 4 months, had never mentioned acting to whatsoever, a great friend of mine from elementary school who's basically like a brother to me. He's my brother, Nicholas Johnson. And he called me up out of the blue 2 days later and said, hey man, I think I got an end in this Tyler Perry movie if you're interested. And so I was like, okay, this is probably something I need to pay attention to, right? So that movie was Tyler Perry's I Can Do Bad All By Myself with Taraji P. Henson, who I'll be working with in no time shortly. Speak that into existence. It's going to happen. And also with Mary J. Blige. So if you go back to that movie and you look in the opening scene of the movie where Taraji's coming out and she is singing in a jazz club in front of like a crowd of people in front of a bunch of different tables, then she kind of zeroes in and she starts singing to one table that's kind of like front and center, and it's got 4 people in it, and if you look, it's me and my buddy Nick, right? And then 2 of my other friends now, 2 females that were with us, and that's how it all began. So, the success principle that came from that moment was I made up my mind that I wasn't going to leave that set until I figured out some way that could take me to the next set, right? And this is just doing background work, just doing extra work at the time, okay? And so one thing that I figured out well before I started acting, just a general success principle, is that people that are successful, right, we hang out together. In every field, what will start to happen is that the successful folks will start to gravitate toward each other, because just by the way that we function and the way that we prepare and that we act, we tend to get drawn to each other. So you find that group of people and start hanging around them. So I was looking at the set that probably had, I don't know, something like 150 background artists, or extras as some people call it. I prefer calling it background artists because that's where I come from. But you could tell the people that looked like they knew what they were doing and the people that were like me just trying to figure out what was going on, right? So I started gravitating towards that little pocket of people that were calmer and kind of like looked like they knew the flow of how things go, and I just started asking them questions. Okay? And so from there, I found a way to get to the next set. Then I kept, circling around with those folks at each set, and then figured out who had been actually training in acting here in the Southeast, and then found out where I needed to train, like what places are reputable, and started training at one of those places. Because you can't, it's not, I don't say can't that often, so let me back up from there, but the path of least resistance is what I'm giving you. Now sometimes people get plucked out of a mall or just a server at a restaurant, and you just happen to be serving a director and he says, you look like you'd be perfect, and why don't you come in and we'll give you a role. That has happened in life, and it could happen to you, and go for it. Wherever you can find it, go for it. I'm just giving you the path of least resistance. So I started taking on-camera acting classes from schools, acting schools that were reputable to the agents in the area, right? So when you start putting that stuff on your resume, they recognize the name of those schools because they have talent and we're already represented by them that have trained at those schools. And so they know that they're legit because we come from them, right? So then through those acting classes, do the same principle. Find the people that seem like they are successful, that have been doing it for a little while, that know more than you. So in those classes, the same groups of people will happen. You'll have a group of people that gravitate, and they're always talking about how negative things are. And just like when I was doing background, there was always people talking about how like bad the food was, or how I can't believe we're, working for 12 hours, 13 hours, 14 hours. And I was like, well, the food is whatever you want at your house. So If you don't want to be here, you go onto your house, fix your own peanut butter jelly sandwich, and cut the crust off just like you like it, right? And then someone else that really wants this for a career can jump in and won't complain about the food, and will be in here for the experience and get an idea of what the bigger picture of all of this is about. So in the acting classes, I found the same scope, right? So people that were complaining about the classes or didn't like what was going on or whatever, they grouped together, and then I found the group of people that were successful, and I started asking them, well, like, how do you get represented? And so through them and through those classes, I found out what agencies in Georgia, where I started off. Now I'm fortunate to have multiple representation around the country, and so I found out what agencies were reputable, and then from there you start figuring out what you need to do to submit to them and how you look up online and find out what their requirements are and things like that. So that is how I got started, and that is one of the ways that I would suggest many people get started. Try your hand at some background work. There are some great places on Facebook. You do not need an agent to submit you for background work. You can get background work on your own. I don't need an agent worrying about any kind of background money, trying to get 10% of, what is it? It's probably like $75 or something like that. My agent doesn't worry about that. We worry about top level stuff, right? So you guys can get background work on your own through Facebook groups primarily is where I found a lot of mine starting off. And once you start doing that, you will start getting around, finding those pockets of people that are that look like they've been there for a while, right? And people that just carry themselves, you can just tell. It's just something that, in essence, that comes out of it. You can just tell that people that have been there for a while and they're comfortable with themselves. Another thing that I would just put at the end of this is that understand that this is like taking on a new major in college, okay? So this isn't like I'm going to take one acting class for a month and then submit to an agency thinking that I'm, going to compete with everybody that's been in like 5-10 years, right? So if you start a new industry, if you want to become a nurse, you're going to go to school for like 4 years before you start and learning everything that you need to learn along the way before you start really getting into your own. So think about it that way. Understand, if you're going to switch to this career, it's like switching a major. You're going to put in a good 3-4 years, maybe 5, because some people graduate in 3 years, some people in 4, some people take 5, right? So you're going to have to do that and just put in the work to get there, okay? So that will end this first episode of Positive Acting Advice with the most positive actor in Georgia. So I say to you, keep booking and be positive.